Right, finally going to get round to putting the gearbox back into my Range Rover. There's a few things you want to do before you start. One of them is to change the transmission oil cooler, because if you've got a blown gearbox it's usually full of crap and iron filings and stuff, so you need to change that. The other thing is to make sure your torque converter bolt holes are somewhere in line with the hole through the flywheel. Just makes it easier to line up when you put it in. After you've bolted the gearbox in with a couple of bolts, you just want to look through the inspection hole and make sure the turbine is still free. You should be able to turn it with your finger. If it isn't free and it's tight against the flywheel, then you haven't got it properly engaged on the gearbox input shaft, and you have to take it out and spin it on a bit further. After you've checked the turbine, you can refit all the bolts around the gearbox in order they came out of. After you've fitted all the bell housing bolts, just fit the 2 starter bolts on top of the gearbox. These are 3 torque converter bolts. You have to be very careful not to drop them inside the bell housing, as you have to take the gearbox out again. Here's a little trick for you. If you get your socket, put a bit of tissue paper on top, and then push your bolt into there, and then you tear off the tissue paper, and that hold it nice and securely so you can get it in there without dropping out. Little trick. Once you've got one in, just turn it 30 degrees, put another one in, 30 degrees, put another one in, and that's it. Turbine's all secured, tightened up. After you tighten up the torque converter, you can refit the rubber dust bung. You'd want to refit the breather on top of the gearbox, reclip all your wiring loom clips all the way down, and plug the gearbox back in. And then refit your oil pipes with new O-rings. Put a little smear of oil in the hole first, and that makes it easier to refit. Now it's time to fit the transfer box. Just grease up the splines a little bit with a bit of white grease, and she's ready to go on. Next is to put the gearbox transfer box cage and mountings together. Before you put the prop shafts on, I like to put some oil in the gearbox because it's easier to get to the drain bung, filler bung. You can buy these off of eBay for a couple of quid. It's just a big syringe, and that's your oil needs to go into it. You need roughly 10 litres. And there's the filler bung. As you can see, the prop shaft comes along the side and blocks that bung, so it's easier to put some in now. I managed to get 5.5 litres of fluid into the gearbox before it started coming out the filler bung. Retighten the filler bung and refit the front prop shaft, starting from the donut end. Now fit the front prop shaft bolts one at a time. Don't tighten them up till you've got them all started. As you can see, while talking about the filler bung against the prop shaft, there's not a lot of room, so it's best to get as much oil in there as you can before you fit it. Now fit the rear prop shaft and the centre bearing. Next thing you want to do is refit all your tin heat shield things, and then there's the job done underneath. Next thing you want to do is start the engine with a park brake on, foot on your brake, and run through the gears. I managed to get another 4 litres into the gearbox. Next thing we've got to do is warm the gearbox up to 30 to 50 degrees Celsius. So start the engine. I have diagnostics system, so I can check the temperature of the gearbox on here, but if you haven't got this sort of equipment, you can use a thermometer. Just loading the data up onto my machine. Not sure if you can see this clearly or not. Just going to change the parameters. Can't see it for looking. Oil temperature. System version. As you can see, my oil pressure is only 8 degrees. Have to wait till that gets up to about 30. As you can see, your temperature is now 40 degrees. What you want to do is, on a level ground with the engine running, take the filler bung out, either top up or drain off what comes out. Watch out, because it can be a bit hot. Once it's running out of threads, put the filler bung back in, and there's the job done. While you're underneath, check all your pipe work for leaks, and then take it for a road test. Top it up so it starts to run out the hole, and then put the bung back in.